On the twisting mountain roads of the 1980s in Japan, police radios crackled with stories of a green and white Toyota AE86, cornering impossibly fast, sideways, and vanishing into the dark. This wasn't just reckless speed. It was a new kind of outlaw art, sending authorities and rival racers into relentless pursuit. But who was the man behind the myth the world now knows as the Drift King? And how did a working-class upstart turn an illegal spectacle into a global obsession? The real hunt for Japan's most wanted drifter begins with the secrets he forged on the Touge. Keiichi Tsuchiya was born in 1956 in Nagano Prefecture, a region better known for its quiet mountain towns than for producing racing legends. His father drove trucks for a living. Money was tight, and the family's world revolved around hard work, not horsepower. Keiichi's first encounters with cars were not at racetracks or luxury showrooms, but in the cramped corners of local garages, where he picked up odd jobs to help support the family. He spent long hours cleaning tools, changing oil, and watching older mechanics bring battered engines back to life. As a teenager, Keiichi's fascination with speed grew into something more serious. He rode a battered moped from Nagano to Fuji Speedway, a journey of over 200 kilometers, just for the chance to watch real races and maybe catch a glimpse of the machines he dreamed about. But the world of professional racing was closed off to kids without money or connections. If he was going to race, he would have to do it on his own terms. The answer came on the mountain passes, the Touge, where the rules of society faded with the daylight. Keiichi joined a small circle of street racers who gathered after midnight, far from the reach of the police. The cars were often borrowed, pieced together from junkyard parts, or tuned in back alleys by friends who shared his hunger for speed. These were not rich kids showing off. They were outsiders, testing themselves against the mountain and each other. The Freshman Race Series was the proving ground for drivers like Keiichi. These unsanctioned contests, whispered about in garages and schoolyards, took place on winding roads with no safety barriers, no trophies, and no second chances. The risks were real. Police patrols were a constant threat, and a single mistake could mean a wrecked car or worse. But for Keiichi, this was the only path forward. He became known for his relentless drive, not just to win, but to master every turn, every slide, every inch of the road. Friends remember him sleeping in the back of his car after a night of racing, determined to be the first one up for another run at dawn. In these early years, necessity fueled his creativity. Keiichi couldn't afford the best equipment, so he learned to coax performance from whatever he could find. He studied the way top drivers handled their cars, but he also watched the mountain itself, how the road changed with the weather, how the grip shifted from one corner to the next. These lessons, learned in the shadows, would become the foundation for everything that followed. The legend of the Drift King began not with privilege, but with grit, risk, and a refusal to accept the limits set by others. On the mountain roads, the usual rules of racing broke down. Speed alone was not enough. Keiichi Tsuchiya watched the way motorcycles leaned into corners, how riders balanced on the edge of grip and chaos, and he brought that same philosophy to four wheels. He was not just chasing the fastest line, he wanted to do something no one else dared. Drifting, as he practiced it, was not an accident or a last resort. It was a deliberate act, a way to command attention and rewrite what it meant to control a car. He started by experimenting with steering and throttle, searching for the point where the tires lost grip but the car still obeyed. Most drivers feared that moment. The slide meant you had lost, that the mountain had beaten you. But Tsuchiya leaned into it. He pushed harder, holding the car sideways with a flick of the wheel and a precise touch on the gas. The technique was rooted in what racers call opposite lock, turning the steering wheel into the slide, counteracting the rear wheels as they broke free. It demanded total concentration, a sense of timing measured in split seconds. Any mistake could send the car spinning off the edge of the road. He broke down the art into a trio of moves, initiating the drift with a sharp turn or a clutch kick, catching the slide with opposite lock, and then balancing throttle and steering to hold the angle through the corner. Each maneuver required its own rhythm. Too much speed, and the car would snap back. Too little, and the slide would fizzle. On wet nights, he used the road's camber and the weight of the car to his advantage, sometimes trailing the rear end just inches from the guardrail. The sound of tires screaming against the pavement became a kind of signature, echoing through the valley long after he disappeared around the next bend. Crowds began to gather in the shadows, drawn not just by the risk, but by the spectacle. Tsuchiya's runs were not about shaving tenths of a second. They were a performance. He could hold a drift for hundreds of meters, switching directions mid-corner, making the impossible look effortless. Drivers who watched him realized this was not luck or bravado. It was a new discipline, born from the same hunger for mastery that drove him as a boy in Nagano's garages. His reputation grew with every run. The mountain passes became a stage, and drifting became his language. He practiced night after night, refining the techniques that would later become the foundation of a global sport. For Tsuchiya, the slide was never a mistake. It was the purest form of control, a dance on the edge, where losing grip meant gaining something much bigger. The art of drifting was born not from a need to win, but from a need to create, to thrill, and to prove that the mountain could be conquered on his own terms. In 1987, a grainy VHS tape began circulating through Japan's underground car scene. It was called Pluspy. The footage was raw, no studio polish, no safety nets. Just Keiichi Tsuchiya, his green and white AE86, and the mountain roads he had made famous. The project was not born in a boardroom. It started in the back rooms of tuning shops and magazine offices, places where the air smelled of gasoline and ambition. Tsuchiya put up his own money, betting that the world was ready to see drifting for what it really was. Carboy and Option magazines provided the connections, but the real work fell to young mechanics and shop assistants who doubled as camera crew and editors. They shot at Usui Touge in Gunma, Tsuchiya's home course, dodging police patrols and curious locals. The cameras were handheld, the editing analog, primitive by today's standards, but revolutionary for the time. They captured every angle, pedal box, steering wheel, the flick of Tsuchiya's wrist as he sent the AE86 sideways at speeds that made even seasoned racers flinch. The first copies of Pluspy were dubbed late at night, sometimes in the same garages where the featured cars were built. Tuner shops like Pluspy in Kanagawa became unofficial headquarters, selling tapes under the counter or slipping them into magazine bundles for trusted customers. Word spread fast. Within weeks, Pluspy was a secret password among street racers from Shibuya to Osaka. The tape traveled by hand, passed from one enthusiast to the next, sometimes for cash, sometimes as a favor. Bootleggers set up their own duplication chains, churning out hundreds of copies until the original master began to degrade. Some estimates put the number of tapes in circulation at over 10,000 by the end of 1989, but no one really knows. The only certainty was that Pluspy was everywhere, at car meets, in back rooms, and in the glove boxes of kids who dreamed of taming the Touge. The authorities noticed. Police warned shop owners to stop peddling the video, and rumors spread of raids and confiscations. But the genie was out of the bottle. Pluspy was not just a tape, it was a manifesto. It showed that drifting was not a fluke or an act of desperation. It was a craft, honed in the shadows, and now exposed for all to see. Every person who watched it became part of the legend, fueling stories of a driver who could outpace patrol cars and make an economy coupe dance on the edge of disaster. The tape made Tsuchiya a household name among car enthusiasts, but it also painted a target on his back. As Pluspy's reach grew, so did the tension between the underground and the establishment. The mountain passes, once a private stage, had become the center of a national scandal. And for the first time, the authorities were no longer chasing a rumor. They were hunting the Drift King himself. Inside the boardrooms of the Japan Automobile Federation, in late 1987, the mood was tense. Senior officials pored over a copy of Pluspy, pausing on every shot of Tsuchiya's AE86 sliding through hairpins, tires screaming. The tape had crossed a line, no longer just underground bravado, but a public spectacle that threatened the image of Japanese motorsport. Meeting minutes from that winter, later summarized in automotive journals, reveal a rift. Some officials admired the skill, others saw only recklessness. The debate was not just about one driver. Major sponsors, including car manufacturers with millions invested in racing, began to pressure the Japan Automobile Federation, JAF. Letters arrived warning that continued tolerance of outlaw behavior would force them to reconsider their support. The risk was clear: lose the backing of industry giants, or make an example of the Drift King. In the end, the establishment acted. Tsuchiya's racing license was suspended for conduct unbecoming a professional driver. The official statement was terse, but the message to the racing world was unmistakable. No matter how much talent he displayed, glorifying illegal street racing would not be tolerated. Tsuchiya was cut off from the circuits he had fought so hard to reach. For a young man who had clawed his way up from the mountain roads, the exile felt absolute. He was exiled outside the world he had chased. Rumors began to swirl in the vacuum left by his absence. Some whispered that Tsuchiya had found protection among the Yakuza, Japan's organized crime syndicates, who were known to have a hand in gambling and underground racing. Former syndicate members, years later, claimed that high-stakes drift battles in Tokyo and Osaka sometimes ran with the quiet blessing of local bosses. Yet no police file ever surfaced, and no journalist could confirm a direct link. The truth was elusive, lost in a haze of late-night deals and street legend. What is clear is that Tsuchiya's name carried weight in places where the law held little sway. The rumor only fed the legend. The ban left Tsuchiya in limbo. He was too famous for the underground, too notorious for the official world. Corporate sponsors distanced themselves, and even old allies in the tuning scene grew cautious. For months, there was no clear path forward. The JAF decision had sent a warning to every driver tempted to follow in his tire tracks. Yet for many young racers, the punishment only deepened the Drift King's legend. He had become the ultimate outlaw, not just hunted by the police, but exiled by the very system he once dreamed of joining. The mountain passes remained, but the future was uncertain, and the cost of fame weighed heavier than ever. In the spring of 2000, The world of motorsport watched as something entirely new took shape in Tokyo. Daijiro Inada, the outspoken founder of Option magazine and the Tokyo Auto Salon, sat across from Keiichi Tsuchiya at a cluttered office table. Their conversations were blunt: how to take drifting off the mountain and onto the world stage without losing its soul. Inada brought the media muscle and business contacts, and Tsuchiya brought the credibility of a man who had lived every risk and every exile. Sponsors, once wary of the sport's outlaw roots, now circled with cautious interest. They wanted assurance. Could drifting be more than chaos? Could it be judged, regulated, and sold to the masses? The answer came in the form of the D1 Grand Prix, announced at the Tokyo Auto Salon in January 2000. The series would not reward the fastest car, but the most spectacular driver. Rules were drafted that made style, angle, and showmanship as important as speed and line. A panel of judges, including Tsuchiya himself, would score each run, turning every slide into a performance measured by artistry as much as precision. For the first time, drifting had a rulebook and a spotlight, not just a midnight audience. The inaugural event took place in October, drawing 16 of Japan's boldest drivers to a temporary course in Odaiba. Tire smoke hung over the city, broadcast live by Fuji TV and covered in every major car magazine. Tsuchiya, once banned for conduct unbecoming a professional, now stood at the center of a sanctioned spectacle. The same system that had exiled him now embraced his vision, and the D1 Grand Prix became the blueprint for a global sport. The outlaw was not only welcomed back, he was asked to lead. No other car in Japanese motorsport carries the mythic weight of Keiichi Tsuchiya's Toyota AE86. On paper, it was an economy coupe, lightweight, underpowered, and overshadowed by turbocharged rivals. But Tsuchiya and his team of garage mechanics transformed this humble chassis into a legend. They stripped away weight, welded the seams for strength, and tuned the suspension until the car could float sideways through corners with uncanny balance. The AE86 became a symbol for every underdog who believed that skill could outshine money. Dyno sheets from the late 1980s show the car rarely broke 175 horsepower, but its agility and Tsuchiya's touch made it unbeatable on the Touge. As drifting crossed from the shadows to the spotlight, Tsuchiya's story took on a new dimension. He was not content to be a legend for a chosen few. In 2003, he released the Drift Bible, a video tutorial that broke down every secret move, clutch kick, feint, and e-brake initiation, using in-car footage and pedal cams. For the first time, the art of drifting was codified and made accessible to a global audience. New drivers from California to Norway studied Tsuchiya's step-by-step lessons, learning not just how to slide, but how to control chaos with purpose. The Drift Bible became the sport's definitive guide, its influence stretching far beyond Japan's borders. Hollywood soon came calling. In 2006, Universal Pictures launched The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. Producers wanted authenticity, so they brought in Tsuchiya as stunt coordinator and technical advisor. He trained the actors, choreographed the driving sequences, and even appeared on screen as the quiet fisherman at the docks, a subtle nod to those who knew the real story. With his guidance, the film introduced millions to the world of drifting, turning a once illicit art into a global phenomenon. Today, the AE86 is more than a car. It is a cultural icon, and Tsuchiya's legacy as both teacher and drift king is cemented in the DNA of motorsport worldwide. Today, drifting is a billion-dollar global industry, legal, televised, and celebrated. Yet every sanctioned event traces back to one man, rewriting the rules on forbidden mountain roads. As car culture faces new legal and technological frontiers, Tsuchiya's legacy asks who defines the limits of innovation. Sometimes, the future of sport is born exactly where it is least welcome.